Assalamu alaikum students, this is Ahmed Hussain from English department of SMB QAPS Public School Higher Secondary section. My students, we are once again back, and today we are going to discuss a new topic, that is Daffodils by William Wordsworth. Well, no doubt the poem Daffodils has been written by William Wordsworth, where he tells us about his memory in which he saw the daffodils. Moreover, the poet witnessed the memory of the daffodils when he was sitting ideally, and he saw the flowers smiling and dancing. This view gave him a joy and a cheerful company of flowers. Ultimately, he has saved some of these memories in his mind so that he can achieve those pleasures again by remembering them. Students, as usual, let's proceed forward along with the objectives. No doubt we discuss objectives before going through any video lecture. So as far as this video lecture is concerned, the objectives are mentioned clearly on your screen. First of all is to comprehend these stanzas well. While going through the poem, it is daily required to comprehend these stanzas. Moreover, the reading and listening skills are also required to be increased. Ultimately, there will be an enhancement in your vocabulary, no doubt. Let's proceed forward, and you can see first stanza on your screen of this poem. My students, let me have an overview, and let me throw a light on the background of this poem, that it was indeed written in 1804, inspired by an event in the early 19th century in which Wordsworth and his sister Dorothy came across a long belt of daffodils while traveling in the Lake District of England. Well, it was first published in 1807 in poems in 2 volumes, and the revised version was published in 1815. Well, as far as the first stanza is concerned, here it has been written on your screen, and you can see here that it has been written. The poet says, "I wandered lonely as a cloud that flirts on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze." My students, as I right now mentioned, that the poet was traveling aimlessly, just like a cloud, over the hills and valleys of the mountainous Lake District in England. At that time, suddenly he came across a large number of golden daffodils beside the lake and under the trees. The flowers were fluttering and dancing in the breeze. That's why the poet says, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Well, the poet directly compares himself to a cloud, and as he was wandering without aim, just like the clouds. Well, this is an example of simile, and which is indeed a figure of speech where 2 things are compared using as or like, and you can observe in these lines. And also in the last line, the poet personifies the flowers by saying that they were fluttering like birds or butterflies and dancing like human beings. Well, this is an indication that it was a breezy day, so we get an overall idea of the landscape, which the trees, the flowers beneath them, and the breezy atmosphere, which includes the trees, the flowers beneath them, and breezy atmosphere. My students, it was all about our first stanza of the poem, and now let's proceed forward. Here In the second stanza, the poet says, continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. Well, my students, here is another simile. The flowers are compared to the stars. Yes, continuous as the stars that shine. They stretched in the continuous line just like the stars in the galaxy, like the Milky Way. Moreover, the daffodils were shining as they were golden in color and twinkling as they were fluttering in the breeze as the stars. This comparison with the stars may have a greater implication in indicating that the flowers are heavenly as the stars. Furthermore, the flowers were visible as far as the poet could see along the shoreline of a bay. That's why he says they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of the bay. That is why he uses the phrase never-ending line. He used the phrase never-ending line. Yes, my students. Furthermore, here the continuous and never-ending may also suggest that the flowers left an everlasting impact on him. There is another thing to be noticed where the poet says, 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. Wordsworth exaggerates the number of flowers by saying 10,000 saw I at a glance. That indicates that the poet has never seen so many daffodils at once. So he is just overjoyed. And this type of exaggeration is called hyperbole according to the figures of speech, where the statements or the claims not mean to be taken literally. So my students, this was the explanation of second poem, and now here in this slide you can observe the beautiful picture of daffodils, and you can also analyze the environment, the beautiful environment where the daffodils are stretched in never-ending line, and the number of these flowers show great beauty, much beauty in this area. That's why the poet has directly indicated it as along they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. Well, students, let's proceed forward. After it, we are going to discuss the third stanza. Here in this stanza, the poet says, the waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. Well, my students, here the waves in the bay were dancing and looking gleeful at the atmosphere, but the flowers outshone the lively waves in their happiness. Having such cheerful companion like the daffodils, a poet like Wordsworth cannot help being happy. So he was gazing constantly at the flowers and enjoying their beauty. That's why he has used the word gazed twice in order to indicate how moved or charmed the poet was. Well, my students, moreover, he gazed at them for a long time, forgetting his surroundings, and at that time he did not think much about the wealth that the flowers had brought to him. The poet realized that later, maybe after a few days, this wealth is indeed a great wealth and a great gift for the poet. Well, my students, let's move forward. Now we are here at the last stanza of this poem, and we are going to discuss it in detail also. Here the poet says, "For oft when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills, and dances with the daffodils." Well, my students, here in this last stanza of the poem, the poet, by starting this stanza with "for," continues his reasoning for saying that the flowers had brought him wealth. And whenever he sees the flowers in his imagination, his heart fills with pleasure and his mind dances with the dancing daffodils. That's why this shows the poet's intense feelings. The poet has been able to depict the landscape and express his mind so vividly in so simple language and form that really draws one's attention. And that is why this poem has been one of the most read and mentioned subjective poems in the history of English literature. Well, my students, now at the end, we are going to conclude the whole poem by discussing its theme. Well, as far as the theme is concerned, the poem is all about the beauty of nature. Yes, the poem is all about the beauty of nature. Wordsworth is often termed a nature lover, and indeed, during the literary era of romantic movement that he started was mainly characterized by the love and celebration of nature and beauty. That's why this poem is the representation of beauty, love, and all about that is going to let us enjoy and make us happy. So my students, that was all about our today's poem, and hopefully all the objectives have been achieved. First of all, the objectives were to comprehend the stanzas, and by the grace of Almighty, we have discussed all stanzas in detail, all 4 stanzas of this poem, and hopefully you will try to compose some sort of explanations by yourself in order to increase your writing skills. Moreover, while going through this poem, another objective was to increase the reading and listening skills, and hopefully it is also achieved. And third one was to increase the vocabulary words, and ultimately the enhancement of vocabulary words is also achieved, and this objective is fulfilled while going through this poem. No doubt new words have become the part of your vocabulary bank. So my students, as far as objectives are concerned, we have fulfilled all the objectives, and now it's your turn that the worksheets will be sent to you, all of you, and hopefully you will give your feedback regarding this poem, and ultimately it will help us to assess you and also to let you prepare yourself for the annual examination. So my students, thank you so much, and wish you all the best of luck, and hopefully all of you have comprehend